Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alex, and if you're not, good to see you again because it's been a minute. Today I'm doing a wrap up of all of the books that I read in April and May, starting off with Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez, a book that got its own full video review, so I'm not going to be spending a lot of time talking about it here. In short, I wasn't really a fan. I wanted supernatural horror, and the book gave me political commentary with a little bit of horror. I wanted existential dread, and instead got child abuse. It's such a shame because it began with so much promise, and I thought for sure I was going to love this story, but I didn't, and in good faith cannot recommend it to you. I gave the book 2 stars. Up next is Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling, a book I do have a physical copy of because it was gifted to me by my friend Kat at Kat's Novel Adventures. The only reason that I don't have it with me today is because Keaton's reading it. I was in a horrible reading slump after March, and if you saw my prior wrap-up video, then you know why, and honestly, April didn't end up being a whole heck of a lot better because it turned into the Our Share of Night month, and so I just really needed a book with a tremendous sense of heart and humor and great commentary, and that is fortunately what I got in Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus. This is the story of Avon, a teenager whose parents are packing up and moving to a different state in order to begin a new career managing a Western theme park. Moving to a new state is difficult for anybody, so Avon is having to navigate the difficulties of meeting new people and gaining new friends, but on top of that, there's the added layer of the fact that Avon was born with a genetic condition that makes it to where she has no arms. So she has a very visible disability, and this unfortunately makes her ostracized by her fellow classmates. So we get to watch as Avon makes new friends who are also ostracized in their own right, and they get to help her solve a mystery at the theme park in which her parents work. The book covers many topics I wasn't expecting, such as Tourette syndrome, adoption, making new friends, how to cope with moving to a new place, and being comfortable in your own skin. It's a fun, endearing, heartfelt story that I would highly recommend, and I gave it 4.5 stars. My last book that I read in April was Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez, another book that also got its own entire video, which is why I didn't do a wrap up just for April, because I would have had one book basically to tell you about that you hadn't already heard of, and that would have been boring. Chilling Effect is a fun sci-fi romp following our main character, Captain Ava Innocent, who was formerly a smuggler trying to turn her life around and get on the straight and narrow. There are a ton of references to Mass Effect, which is a series near and dear to my heart, which I cover in the full review, as well as references to some other franchises. If you are passionate about video games and sci-fi and a little bit of comedy thrown in, this book could be for you. There's lots of Spanglish, we have a morally gray main character, and honestly I ended up liking it way more than I expected to because there were some more emotional moments. I thought this was going to be kind of a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy type book, but it's really not that. It is meant to be a full narrative that isn't just wacky sci-fi antics, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I then read Born a Crime, which is the memoir by Trevor Noah, where he recounts what it was like to grow up in South Africa as a child of a black woman and a white man. He was very illuminating about the history of apartheid and also what it was like to watch it end because he lived in South Africa during both of those times. He blends sharp and intelligent commentary with humor seamlessly in a way that Trevor Noah just can. And I also didn't realize until reading this book just how much of a hustler he was when he was growing up. He's strong, articulate, and some of the things that he talks about were honestly difficult to read, but that's why they're so important. And this is the first memoir I have ever read that I am giving 5 stars. One of my favorite pieces of advice from Born a Crime was how Trevor Noah says that we should teach children to fear regret rather than rejection or failure, because rejection and failure are both answers. You know that you failed, but with regret, you spend your entire life wondering what if, and that is something that will always haunt you. And I thought that that was very profound, and I absolutely agree with that. He's just so insightful, and I honestly want everybody to read this book. Up next is Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult and Jennifer Finney Boylan. This is the story of Olivia, Lily, and Asher. Olivia is Asher's mother, and Lily is Asher's girlfriend. Olivia always viewed Asher and Lily's relationship as a wholesome one. She even thought that they would get married one day, but unfortunately, Lily mysteriously turns up dead, and Asher is the prime suspect. Over the course of the trial, Olivia ends up learning about secrets that Asher had been keeping from her and starts to realize that maybe their relationship wasn't what it seemed. I really love how this book began with exceptional prose and a ton of tension and mystery. The authors were exceptional at delving out bits and pieces of information in order to give me a taste of what was to come. It really kept my interest going. I really love how we get to know the characters. Olivia and Lily were incredibly compelling. Olivia's perspective is told from the day that Lily dies up going into the future, where we have Asher's trial, versus Lily's perspective, which starts from the day that she died and actually goes backwards to the day that she first met Asher. There was a ton of beekeeping information, as you could expect from a book titled Mad Honey, but the thing I appreciated is that the authors really spent the time to get the information and details correct, so good on them for that. There's a solid timeline of events in Mad Honey, and I honestly struggle with how to categorize this thriller because a large part of me wants to say that it is a legal thriller because we spend so much time in the court system talking about the way that the trial is going to go and how exactly everything's going to proceed. But as the story continues, it becomes much more than that, so I'm honestly not sure how to tell you exactly what this book is, except that it is a thriller. Because of that fact, I naturally knew that there were going to be reveals as the story went on, but for those of you who have read this book, I am not joking when I say that I guessed what the major reveal was towards the middle of the book. The thing that completely alters the way that the second half of the story goes. And if you don't believe me, you can ask Keaton, because we were sitting on the couch together and I was explaining to him, I think that these little details are showing that we're going in this direction and this is going to be what happens. And he didn't believe me because he thought that that was kind of weird. And I honestly didn't really believe myself because I thought, no, there's no way that that's actually going to be what the authors do. And sure enough, they did. So I'm kind of shocked at myself, but also I have proven in the past when I read thrillers that I am entirely too good at guessing things, which is extremely frustrating for me, but that's just how it is. The day that I read a thriller and I tell you that it surprised me, you know that that's going to be a good book. And it may come as a surprise given how positively I was just talking about this book that I only gave it 3.5 stars. The main reason for that is honestly the ending and the way that the second half of the story went. I think there's a lot of excellent commentary in Mad Honey, and I agree with what the authors were trying to say, but the ending completely ruined this story, and I cannot give it any more than 3.5 stars. Last but certainly not least is the sequel to Chilling Effect, which is Prime Deceptions, which takes place very shortly after the end of the first book. Ava and her crew have a new mission that could prove to be quite lucrative, but Ava is going to have to travel to the planet of her nightmares, Guerrilla, where she is known both as a hero and as a butcher. Just like how I gave all the similarities to Mass Effect for Chilling Effect, I get to tell you about how Prime Deceptions is similar to Pokemon. I was obsessed with Pokemon as a kid. I had thousands, literally thousands of trading cards. I played all of the games and I watched the TV show. So I absolutely knew what this book was getting at. In this story, we have pod pals, which Ava also refers to as ball buddies, that come in a baseball-sized container with a button on the front and house synthetic creatures that are much larger than the ball that they come in. Each creature is modeled after an attuned, which is native to the Xana homeworld, Guerrilla, and come with up to 6 abilities, which can be upgraded and changed out based off of the user's preferences and needs. The pod pals can also take the form of the attune's full growth cycle, aka evolution. The Xana also use their attuned in order to compete in competitions where they fight each other in tournaments for sport. In this case, all of the attuned, just like their trainers, are psychic. There's also another major franchise that is referenced that I can't tell you about because it would be a huge spoiler, but I will say that Ava has character growth in this book way more than she did in Chilling Effect, and that made me like her that much more. Again, the concepts in this book are not wholly original, and sometimes the emotional bits kind of land flat, but the reason why Valerie Valdez's writing appeals to me is because we have obviously quite similar backgrounds in terms of the franchises that we love, and I enjoy her writing style, and I would recommend this book. There is the possibility that I could read this again in the future, but it probably wouldn't be for quite a long time, so I'm going to give this book 4 stars. Please let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books or would be interested in reading any of them, because I love to hear from you. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, that you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time.